The string quartet was playing Vivaldi's Spring, but the air in the grand lobby of the Vanderbilt Hotel was frosty with unspoken hierarchies. I, Alessia, stood just inside the revolving doors, taking in the scene of my sister Bianca's engagement party. Crystal glittered, orchids wept from towering arrangements, and the scent of money, old, careful, anxious money, was thicker than the perfume. Bianca was marrying into the Winthrop family, a dynasty whose wealth was as weathered and respectable as the hotel's limestone facade. My sister, the social climber with a heart of polished granite, had finally bagged the ultimate prize, Preston Winthrop III. Our parents, who had mortgaged their souls for Bianca's private schooling and debutante balls, were somewhere in the throng, basking in reflected glory. I had taken a different path. Where Bianca saw old money as a finish line, I saw it as a fascinating, often rotting ecosystem. With a dual degree in finance and hospitality from Wharton, I hadn't married into an empire, I'd quietly built one. Through a labyrinth of LLCs and holding companies, I was the majority owner of the historic Vanderbilt Group, a fact known to fewer than 10 people globally. The Winthrops loved the hotel for its pedigree. They had no idea their future in-law owned its deed. I wore a dress that cost more than Bianca's monthly allowance from our parents, but its label was invisible, its elegance silent. I carried no clutch, just a single, thick linen envelope. As I moved toward the ballroom archway, a security guard in an overly crisp uniform stepped smoothly into my path. He was young, eager to enforce the invisible lines. "Staff and deliveries through the service entrance, ma'am," he said, not unkindly, his eyes dismissing my understated dress as help. I blinked. "I'm a guest, the Bianca West engagement party." He consulted a tablet. "Your name, ma'am?" "Alessia West." He scrolled, shook his head. "Not on the VIP list for the main entrance. You'll need to check in with event coordination at the service desk, around the side." He gestured with a white-gloved hand toward a dark, brass-handled door marked Private. A cold, familiar amusement stirred in my chest. Bianca, of course. She'd kept me off the main list, a final, petty power play, ensuring I entered her triumphant moment through the back, like the embarrassing, less successful sister she believed me to be. She probably thought I worked in marketing for a hotel chain, a vague middle management failure in her eyes. I didn't argue. I offered the guard a serene smile. "Of course, thank you." I turned and walked, not toward the side door, but toward the grand staircase. He moved to intercept, but I caught the eye of Charles, the hotel's longtime concierge, who had known me since I was a child touring properties with my grandfather. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. I gave a slight, almost invisible shake of my head and a glance toward the security guard. Charles was a master of discreet protocol. He immediately approached the guard. "Jeffrey, a word about the Reynolds suite," he said, leading the confused young man away. I ascended the staircase, the envelope feeling heavier with each step. It did not contain a gift. It contained a truth. 6 months prior, the Winthrop family holding company had come to one of my venture capital firms, shrouded in layers of intermediaries, seeking a bridge loan to cover a catastrophic, secret loss in a European shipping venture. Their collateral was a portfolio of commercial properties, including the building next to this very hotel. My analysts had dissected their books. They were a gilded shell, one bad quarter from a very public collapse. I'd approved the loan personally, under strict confidentiality, at a punishing interest rate. They had no idea A. Kingfisher, the reclusive financier, was Alessia West. The first payment was due tomorrow, and the envelope in my hand was not a bill. It was an executed, notarized notice of default and foreclosure on the collateral properties, triggered by a technical covenant violation we'd discovered the week before. It was the first domino. I reached the mezzanine balcony overlooking the ballroom. Below, Bianca glowed in ivory silk, clinging to Preston's arm. His parents, Arthur and Genevieve Winthrop, held court, their smiles benevolent and assured. My own parents laughed too loudly at one of Arthur's jokes. I took out my phone and sent a single pre-arranged text to Charles. "Now." Down below, Charles entered the ballroom and approached Arthur Winthrop with an apologetic bend of his neck. He whispered something, presenting a hotel-branded envelope. Arthur's genial smile faltered. He excused himself, followed by a frowning Genevieve. I watched them disappear into a private salon off the ballroom. My phone buzzed. It was the head of my legal team. They've opened it. I waited 2 minutes, then I descended the staircase, not into the ballroom, but toward the closed doors of the salon. I could hear the raised voices before I even touched the handle. Preposterous! A default? This is a mistake. Get Kingfisher on the phone now. Arthur's voice was a strangled roar, a sound this room probably never heard. Sir, the documents are in order. The call regarding the covenant violation was logged last week. Your office acknowledged it. This will ruin us. The publicity alone. We have a ballroom full of people. Perhaps you should have considered that before breaching the agreement. Ethan's voice was cool, dispassionate. The foreclosure proceedings begin at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The Vanderbilt Group has first right of refusal on the adjacent property, as per the cross-collateralization clause.
The Vanderbilt Group. I could picture the blood draining from Arthur's face, his family's most prized social venue, about to own the land next door, knowing his shame. I chose that moment to push the door open. The scene was beautiful in its devastation. Arthur Winthrop stood, ashen, the foreclosure notice trembling in his hand. Genevieve had a hand over her mouth, and standing there, having followed them in confusion, were my sister, Bianca, and Preston, their faces masks of bewildered horror. All eyes turned to me, the uninvited sister in the emerald dress. "Alessia, this is a private meeting," Bianca snapped, her engagement party gleam utterly gone. "I know," I said softly, walking into the center of the room. I looked at Arthur. "I believe you're looking for a Kingfisher." The silence was absolute. It took a full 10 seconds for the implication to travel from his brain to his face. Disbelief, confusion, then a dawning, catastrophic comprehension. "You," he whispered. "Me." I nodded toward the paper in his hand. "I'm afraid the terms are non-negotiable. A deal is a deal." You set us up," Genevieve hissed, her composure shattered. "I loaned you money at your urgent request to hide your losses. You failed to meet the terms. This isn't personal, it's arithmetic." I turned to my sister, whose beautiful face was now twisted with a rage so deep it was almost primal. You did this? You're trying to ruin my future? Our family's future?" "No, Bianca," I said, my voice calm. "You tried to build your future on a foundation of gossip, exclusion, and someone else's crumbling fortune. I'm just the inspector, pointing out the dry rot." I looked at Preston, who was staring at his father as if seeing him for the first time. "The foreclosure is public record as of tomorrow. I suggest you and your parents find a new venue for the wedding. I hear the service entrance has a lovely loading dock." With that, I turned and left the salon, the sound of a gilded world imploding behind me. The string quartet was now playing Winter. How fitting. I didn't leave the hotel. I went up to the owner's penthouse suite, unlocked the door, and poured myself a drink. From the floor-to-ceiling window, I watched as, one by one, stunned guests began to leave the party below, the news spreading in horrified whispers. The security guard who'd sent me to the service entrance was now holding open the main door for the fleeing elite. He'd tried to send the owner through the back, and in doing so, he'd ushered the entire Winthrop family and my sister's perfect engagement straight out the front door, into the cold, brutal truth.